this morning. Chapter 1 is what we're going to be looking at. I have to tell you that I don't know that I knew a lot about Ruth. I know the story, but there's a lot to this, and I thought I might try to start out with some background information. One of the Jewish festivals is called Shabbat, Shabbat. It's called the Feast of Weeks. I think it's talked about in Leviticus 23. If you want to do that, it's going to look and see what that is. But during that festival, one of the things they do is they read the story of Ruth. You know, it's not every group of Jewish people do that, but some communities read this book, and they read it because of the lineage back to King David. And he being a descendant of Ruth the Moabite. That's a 2-day Jewish holiday. It happens in May. It commemorates the date that God gave the Torah to the Jewish people. So it's a big deal. It's one of the 5 premier festivals that the Jewish people celebrate. I thought that was interesting to think about, that they read the book of Ruth during that festival. There's a term, and I don't even know if I can pronounce it right, called Hesed, H-E-S-E-D. Y'all ever seen that term?
Yes.
I have a shirt with it on there.
Okay, well then you can tell me what it means. What does it mean? What does that word mean? It's a Jewish Hebrew word, right? So you said kindness. All right. What
Loving
else?
favor of God.
What is it?
Loving favor of God. Referencing this covenant, this everlasting covenant. We get it often in the Psalms.
So it's based on a covenants. It's a covenant term. What are some other words that go along with it? And I've got some written down here.
Loving kindness.
Kindness, loving
The word
kindness.
is loving kindness is translated. Oftentimes.
Loving kindness. Bottom line is, we don't really have a word in the English language that kind of captures the full meaning of this term. And the reason I bring this term up is because it's repeated in the book of Ruth. And to really understand some of the implications of the story itself, this term comes into play all the time. It's also has something to do with loyalty. Is another term that goes along with it. Goodness. Mercy. I mean, if you think about everything that's good in life or in relationship, this one term tries to capture that thought. It's tied to covenant. It's an expression of deep and abiding loyalty and commitment between parties, but usually parties based on some type of covenant that's been made. It relieves an urgent, essential need. It's not just being nice. It's not just being nice. If someone in dire straits and you come to their aid because of loyalty, because of your covenant commitment, because you love them, all these good things come into play with this word. It's the benefit of someone in real and desperate need, deep and enduring commitment between parties, and it's usually the powerful helping the weaker. The powerful helping the weaker. Now, when you think about it in those terms, who has shown us, is it Hesed? Who has shown us Hesed?
Nathan says you have to spit it.
I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use the southern pronunciation, which is Hesed. We pronounce it out. So who has done that for us?
Jesus.
God's done that for us, and you know, He made a covenant with us. There is a covenant with us, right? It's He's loyal to us. He's been, in spite of poor decisions that we make, all those kind of things. You know, this word comes into play. So when we read the story, when you think about the story of Ruth, think about this word. Yahweh models Hesed. Now, the other part of that too is there's some type of reciprocal part of this as well. And that if, you know, God has given us, shown us Hesed, or whatever that word is, then he really kind of expects that from us, right? Steve, I tried to spit it out. I couldn't do it. Anyway, so He expects that from us, right? He wants us to be loyal. We're in covenant with Him. We do loving favor. And it's not just, and so when He modeled this for us, and He expects us to model, to carry that out with people, with other people. So it's not just, He didn't just stop with Him showing that to us. We are supposed to practice this with others as well. There's another term, and I hesitate to do this because I'm very unqualified. I wish Nathan was here to straighten me out on these things, but it's this term called G-O-E-L. And that is an adult male relative who serves as an advocate for the vulnerable and unfortunate clan member, especially through the redemption and restoration of property, persons, and lineage. When we think about culture and customs and practices of the people of that time, this is a big deal. And there, along with this, is another term that I've pulled out called a levirate. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong too. Marriage. All right, let's look at Deuteronomy 25. Deuteronomy 25. We're going to read 5 through 10. Somebody want to read that?
If brothers are living together and one of them dies without a son, his widow must not marry outside the family. Her husband's brother shall take her and marry her and fulfill the duty of a brother-in-law to her. How far?
10.
The first son she bears shall carry on the name of the dead brother, so that his name will not be blotted out from Israel. However, if a man does not want to marry his brother's wife, she shall go to the elders at the town gate and said, "My husband's brother refuses to carry on his brother's name in Israel. He will not fulfill the duty of a brother-in-law to me." Then the elders of his town shall summon him and talk to him. If he persists in saying, "I do not want to marry her," his brother's widow shall go up to him in the presence of the elders, take off one of his sandals, spit in his face, and say, "This is what is done to the man who will not build up his brother's family line. That man's line shall be known in Israel as the family of the unsandaled."
Family of the unsandaled. So, is this a law that they're supposed to live by? Is this a law that the Jewish people are supposed to live by? It does to me too. So this levirate marriage that we're talking about, that's what this is called, is a practice that they were supposed to put in place. Now, Genesis 38 is the story of Judah, and if you want to look over there and scan that, I tell you what, sometimes when you read stories from the Old Testament, you think, wow, that's incredible what that story is about. But this law of marriage that we're talking about happened out. So Genesis 38, Judah had his brothers. The oldest brother was and he died before giving birth to a son. His brother's name was Onan, O-N-A-N. So by that Deuteronomy law, what was Onan supposed to do? He was supposed to marry his brother's widow, and they were supposed to have children. Now, when they had children, who was going to be blessed by that? Was it going to be Onan? Because he did the sad thing. He did what was right by covenant. But who was he going to be blessed by that?
All the kids, or the boy, if there was a boy born.
Yeah.
He'd be the one.
He would be the one that would get. So the big deal in the Jewish, this whole marriage thing was about transfer of property, right? It was about who was going to get the blessing, who was going to get the material things that the family had, and all that went to the oldest son. They got the double measure. So when died and Onan was there, I won't get into the details about how he looked like on the outside. He was carrying out this marriage covenant, but they had no children, and so then Tamar, which was Er's wife, went away, and then she tricked Judah into sleeping with her like she was a prostitute, and then the story goes that she had twins by Judah, the father of Er's father. So I just think when you hear a story like that, you think, good grief. I mean, we wouldn't accept that today. I mean, the way that they handled sexual relations back in those days, I mean, it's like, it's okay to go sleep with a concubine. Matter of fact, when they found out that Tamar was going to be pregnant, she was pregnant because she was a prostitute, what was Judah going to do to her? We're going to stone her. So none of this in our culture makes any sense whatsoever. Is that right? I hope not.
So it didn't matter if the brother was married. He had to marry.
Yeah. That's a complication I don't know about.
I mean, that's what I'm assuming.
I guess so.
And had to lay with the widow
Yep.
in order for her to get pregnant.
She had to get pregnant by a son and have a son.
That's really kind of amazing.
So a man who really loves his wife and doesn't want to cause that drama in his own marriage, then
He had a
becomes
right.
known as being unsaddled and gets his face stitched.
Yeah, he could be taken to the elders of the community and be made the family of the unsandaled. So when we talk about culture and customs and how we translate that to scripture in our own lives, I mean, I think it's very confusing sometimes. I mean, you can't just take that and say that's what we live by. I mean, we don't do that. That's just not acceptable. I can see Kathy putting up with that. All right, so in the other story, Genesis 19. Genesis 19 is a story about Abraham and Lot. Okay, who can tell me the story of that? So, what happened to Abraham and Lot?
Did they get mad at each other, so Lot went on his own way?
Well, they started out together, right? Their tribe, their herds were together and all that, and they got mixed up, and the herdsmen had conflicts with each other, and so they got to a point where they said, okay, we can't get along with each other, so you pick a direction, Lot, and I'll go the other way. So they split up. Now, why is that important to this story at all? What does that got to do with anything? Who is Lot? Who is Lot's
He's the
descendant?
father of Boaz.
Moab, the Moabites. So Ruth was a Moabite and a descendant of Lot. Okay? So now this story, it kind of reflects back on that, okay? So you got Ruth and Naomi in Moab, where they shouldn't have been in the first place. But then they're going back to their homeland, Bethlehem, and there is an opportunity for history to repeat itself. So you got the descendant of Moab and Naomi, and they're together. They're having trouble, and so she tells her she can go her way if she wants to. Now I think it's an interesting thought, and maybe it's nothing earth-shattering, but to me it's interesting that she's essentially bringing the family of Lot and the family of Abraham back together with her decision. And I think that's a neat thought, that she had an opportunity, just like Lot did, to separate and go back to her people, and instead of doing what Lot did, she chose to stay and be a part of her family. So I think that's a neat thing about this story. What can you do with that? Nothing much, but it is interesting.
Is that not why the Jews read that every Shabbat? Or will we find another reason why they honored reading?
It's because of David. It's because she
Okay.
became the descendant or the ancestor of David, and because of that, they read the book of Ruth. All right. Now, let's read Ruth 1. I think I'm ready to do that. So let's read it together. Somebody want to read the first 5 verses?
In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. The man's name was Elimelech. His wife's name was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were, I don't know how to say that,
Spit it out and it'll be okay.
from Bethlehem, Judah, and they went to Moab and lived there. Now, Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women, one named Orpah and the other Ruth. After they had lived there about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died, and Naomi was left without her 2 sons and her husband.
All right. So, let's talk about the first verse. In the days when the judges ruled. Let's look at Judges 2, just the book prior to this one, Judges 2, 1 through 5. Matter of fact, I might just read that whole chapter. The time and the period of when this book was written is important, because you got to realize in the days of Judges means something. The angel of the Lord went up from Gilgal to Bochim and said, I brought you up out of Egypt, led you into the land where I swore to give you to your forefathers. I said, I will never break my covenant with you, and you shall not make a covenant with the people of this land, but you shall break down the altars. Yet you have disobeyed me. Why have you done this? Now therefore I tell you that I will not drive them out before you. They will be thorns in your sides, and their gods will be a snare to you. When the angel of the Lord has spoken these things to the Israelites, the people wept aloud, and they called that place Bochim. There they offered sacrifices to the Lord. After Joshua had dismissed the Israelites, they went to take possession of the land, each to his own inheritance. The people served the Lord throughout their lifetime of Joshua and of the elders who outlived him, and who had seen all the great things the Lord had done for Israel. Joshua, son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110, and they buried him in the land of his inheritance at Timnath-Heres, the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gash. And the whole generation had been gathered to the fathers. Another generation grew up, who knew neither the Lord when he had done what he'd done for Israel, Then the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord and served Baal. They forsook the Lord, the God of their fathers, who brought them out of Egypt. They followed and worshipped various gods of peoples around them. They provoked the Lord to anger because they forsook him and served Baal and Ashtoreth. In his anger against Israel, the Lord handed them over to raiders who plundered them. He sold them to their enemies, and around them they were no longer able to resist. Whenever Israel went out to fight, the hand of the Lord was against them, to defeat them, just as he had sworn to them. They were in great distress. Then the Lord raised up judges who saved them out of the hands of their raiders. Yet they would not listen to their judges, but prostituted themselves to other gods and worshipped them. Unlike their fathers, they quickly turned from the way in which their fathers had walked, the way of obedience. Whenever the Lord raised up a judge for them, he was with a judge and saved them out of their hands of their enemies as long as the judge lived. For the Lord had compassion on them as they groaned under those who oppressed and afflicted them. But when the judge died, the people returned to ways even more corrupt than those of their fathers, following other gods, serving and worshiping them. They refused to give up their evil practices and stubborn ways. Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel, because this nation has violated the covenant that I laid down for their forefathers and has not listened to them. I will no longer drive out before them any of the nations Joshua left when he died. I will use them to test Israel and see whether they will keep the way of the Lord and walk. The Lord had allowed those nations to remain. He did not drive them out at once by giving them into the hands of Joshua. Just skim over a couple more things in this book. You got the story of the Midianites and how they battled with each other, Gideon, and how they looked out in battles, all the battles that they won. I think in Judges, don't you have the Samson and his story is in there. But then you get to Judges 19. And I don't want to read this because I really think it's a terrible story. But it's a story about a Levite and his concubine, and how he went to this city to get his concubine who'd run away from him. And on the way back, he stopped at this town called Gibeah. And in Gibeah, they wanted to have relations with the Levite, and they also wound up having relations with, he offered his concubine to the people instead of himself, and they violated her terribly. And then when they got back, he sent parts of his concubine to the other tribes of Israel to see if he could get, I guess, some kind of support. I'm not sure what he was thinking about doing that, and he did. But then the Benjamites decided to be on the other side. It was a civil war between the clans, the tribes of Israel over this one event. I mean, horrific story that is told there. And then right after that, we get the story of Ruth. All right, and I think, there's a lot of debate about the order of how they put the scriptures in our Bible together. They didn't get the stories put together like that. Mankind put them in this order. And so when you go from Judges, which it says in the day of the judges, and then it goes into this story, I think there's a very good contrast between the hopeless, sinful, wicked world that this story comes to us from, and the story of Ruth. I mean, you got to keep that in mind. Is the readers, they read this story, it's a story of complete different mindset. Couldn't be more wicked in the days of the judges. Anybody got any thoughts on that? I mean, I don't want to just preach a sermon. All right, So, was it a sin for Elimelech to leave and go to Moab?
Well, Abraham went to Egypt and Jacob went to, Abimelech, the Philistine land. So there's quite a tradition of,
Yeah.
of when things got rough, they would head to.
Yeah, David did that, right? He
Yeah.
went and lived
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
place where Goliath
You
was
got
from.
Joseph and Mary heading down to
Yeah.
to Egypt.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some interesting
Yeah.
story. You know, and when you read about how terrible Israel is, I don't know that Moab looked that bad.
Moab may have been a better place. Yeah,
You know,
I don't know. I don't know how it would have been for a Jewish person to be in Moab. I think that being a foreigner in that land.
Well, you know, David goes there.
Yeah.
You mentioned that, because Saul is persecuted him, and
Yeah.
it's interesting, Saul battles and will destroy but David, when he reigns, they and Moab get along pretty good.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's an
yeah.
interesting
Yeah.
dynamic.
Yeah, so some writers I've looked at said that, he made a bad decision.
Kind of like Lot.
Yeah, he made a bad decision to
Consider
leave.
spiritual
I
consequences.
don't know, if you're in a famine situation and your family's starving to death and there's no hope for rain or food or whatever, he may have made the right decision. It looked like it was a logical decision to go where there was food. What about all the people that stayed though? I mean, why didn't everybody just go to Moab? I mean, that's another way of looking at it. There were people that were committed. Maybe we'd love to think that they were committed to staying there because they believed that God was going to take care of them. I don't know. I don't know if that's why they stayed or not, but there were a lot of people that stayed. So then they get there, and the sons married Moabite women. Okay, so was that a sin? Should they have married Moabite women?
Not supposed to marry outside the race.
Not supposed to marry outside the race? We studied some recently about a situation where they married other women outside their race, right? What was that story? Y'all remember that? What about Ezra and Nehemiah? Do you remember that story? What did he tell them to do what did the leaders of the Jewish nation at that time tell them to do when they married outside? Break up their marriages and separate from them.
And the children had to leave.
The children had to leave. So equate that story to this one. I mean, reflect on that, and then think about this story. So you got the two sons married Moabite women.
I guess the question is it race or is it about what happens to Solomon? The women turn his heart from God.
Mm-hmm.
So is the issue the ethnicity or is the issue the evil heart?
Yeah.
Are they going to fall in line having God as their God, which is what Ruth says.
Yeah.
Your people will be my people, your God
Yeah.
be my God, versus having an allegiance still to their God, which was Chemosh and so.
Yeah.
So, how much of that, because I thought about this, the verse came to my mind, I was reading this last night, Acts 10, when Cornelius is converted, Peter says, I have learned that God is no respecter of person, but in every nation, he who does right and fears God is accepted.
Yeah.
And so how does that play in this?
Yeah. So is this a story to kind of show the people that this race thing is not the most important deal? I think it could be.
But you do have the law, when they entered the land, God said, don't you marry those people.
I know, he did tell them that. Yeah. But it
But it had a spiritual.
had a spiritual context. The reason why it wasn't because he was anti those people so much as he didn't want them to get mixed up in their gods.
Well, even in his law, he made provisions for people who were outside the Israelite family to be able to come and be part
To
of.
join
the nation.
them, to be what they call proselytes. Yeah. So yeah, there was provisions for that. So I think if we read stuff like that into this story, maybe we've gone too far. I don't think it's talking about. It's not a lesson in us on how to handle interracial marriages, although, I mean, it can be, do that. Now, let me ask you this. Did they die because of what they did? Did they die because, did Naomi's husband die, Elimelech died, and the two sons die because they did something wrong?
Some commentators say so.
I mean, when you go back and read about Judah and Tamar, it point blank says that her first husband died because he was evil and the Lord killed him, and then the second son didn't do the correct thing with Tamar, and so the Lord struck him dead. I mean,
Yeah.
the Bible says where the Lord strikes people dead, but this one he stays silent on it, so we don't know.
Naomi thinks so.
Well, that's part of the story, right?
She
Is
said the hand of God is
the hand of the Lord is against me. She interpreted that
This was from God.
this was from God. He was against her. Yeah. I don't know that
Again,
we,
is that right?
I don't,
That's her perspective, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean, that's not inspired, that's just,
Yeah.
here's what she thought, right or wrong.
yeah. Anyway, so I guess I had thought
I mean,
that.
don't we think the same thing? When we have tragedy, we think, you know, that's one of the paths we go down too.
Yeah. We automatically think
We did something that
I've done
caused,
something wrong. It caused me to suffer like that.
not that everybody thinks.
All right, let's read on. That's good. Does somebody else want to read? Let's read 6 through 13. 6 through 13.
Then she arose with her daughters-in-law to return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the fields of Moab that the Lord had visited his people and given them food. So she set out from the place where she was with her two daughters-in-law, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. But Naomi said to her two daughters-in-law, "Go, return each of you to your mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband." Then she kissed them, and they lifted their voice and wept. And they said to her, "No, we will return with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Have I yet sons in my womb that they may become your husbands? Turn back, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, even if I should have a husband this night and should bear sons, would you therefore wait till they were grown? Would you therefore refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, for it is exceedingly bitter to me for your sake that the hand of the Lord has gone against me.
All right, so there's that statement, the hand of the Lord is against me. It's bitter for me than for you. It's more bitter for me than it is for you. All right, so now I guess one of the points that we sometimes overlook, the son's dying, they've been there 10 years. They've been there 10 years. It's not like they went there and immediately they died. It was like 10 years. But, so, one more thing. Did Naomi do anything wrong? And honestly, was any of this, did she do any of this? Were any of these her decisions? But she is like taking this all on. Yeah, she's left with it.
Well, that's assumed, reckon she was the one that had the idea to begin with, and Elimelech agreed to it.
The woman that you gave
No, she wasn't the leader, so.
You know what?
I will say this, it seems like a very traditional Jewish family. So I kind of doubt it.
I'm on your ride home, but.
All right.
That's it, we're moving on to Arkansas.
So she has experienced a double tragedy. She's lost her husband. She's lost her 2 sons. She's got no grandchildren. She's got no kinsman redeemer. We talked about that last week a little bit. It's back to this marriage
But
covenant.
quickly she remembers she does, because once they're back into their homeland, she remembers real fast that they have that.
Yeah, they do
kinsman
have
redeemer.
somebody, yeah. But at the time,
At that time, she was in
she
such
saw,
deep sorrow.
she was hopeless.
Hopeless, yes.
She felt alone, hopeless in her suffering, and she was also feeling old. She didn't have time. She had no ability to have a child, or she probably, I guess she felt like she could, but she had no man, and so she couldn't have a man. No options, no alternate plans. No amount of brainstorming was going to come up with any kind of way out for this, and she was in what I would consider a debilitating kind of situation. So that's the story of Naomi. Was there any glimmer of hope in the story for her? What about the famine?
When she heard that there was food now, the crops were good again.
Yeah,
She had got word of that,
Thanks, maybe going back home.
going back.
going back home might be it. What about the interchange between her and the 2 daughter-in-laws? So you got, is anything wrong with what's her name? The first one? Orpah? What about Orpah? Is anything wrong with what she did? You know, I wonder how far they were in the journey back to Bethlehem that this conversation happened. Was it like right away, before they left, or was it after they walked, several miles? But we don't know that, and so they're having this conversation, and Naomi is using every bit of her logic and human logic and persuasion to get them to go back home. Now, it's interesting that one chose to go back and the other one chose to stay. There was no ill will towards Orpah because of what she did. So here's a question. Is logic and practical wisdom the sure way to follow God's will? Is logic and practical wisdom sure way to find and follow God's will?
Paul says we walk by faith, not by sight.
Yeah,
Just be careful with that one.
yeah. Counter to that is, well, that was a dumb decision. If you make it and I did it in faith. I mean, I'm gonna go out and spend, millions of dollars on a new building.
It's easier to carry the Ark of the Covenant on a wagon built with oxen pulling it than it is to make those poor Levites
Carry it
that
on their
thing
shoulders.
on the shoulder.
Yeah. Think about it from this story.
Yeah,
Was there logic and
sure there was.
wisdom in a player in any part of this? Was logic and wisdom?
Yes, sure.
Where was it? Where was logic and wisdom?
When they left, because there was a famine.
Oh, so there was logic and wisdom to what he did going to Moab, right? So that was logic and wisdom. Turned out terrible, right? What else? Is there anybody else who used logic and wisdom?
Well, I mean, even if you would've stayed,
Go ahead, Tim.
She felt like she could go back home. She worried about the 2 daughters-in-law because they were Moabites. She was thinking about how they might be
Mhm.
received back in Bethlehem.
Mhm.
And she felt that for them, it would be better for them to stay in their homeland with their
Yeah.
family. So she was using logic,
Yeah.
what to her was wisdom in the best interest of her daughters
Right.
in law.
Yeah. So she was using logic and wisdom to get them to go back home. right? Is there another time when she used logic and wisdom? We already talked about one, the decision to go back to Bethlehem, right? I mean, that where she was logic, there's food back there, I'm gonna go back. What else was back there? Remember this idea of, it said, and then what happens to the clan that she was a part of? What was their responsibility to her when she came back? Was take care of her. I mean, she had nobody in Moab to take care of her. And so going back home meant that she was gonna be brought back into the clan, which I really kind of wonder about how that went down too. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. But so she was going back for a lot of logical and practical wisdom. But let's think about Ruth's decision. Was that logical and wise on her part?
Well, we don't know where she came from. We don't know if she had a good environment to go back to.
Yeah, we don't know all that. That's true. That's true. What was she signing up for when she went back to Jerusalem or to Bethlehem with Naomi?
She was a Moabite.
Huh?
Ridicule and.
Ridicule, rejection.
Outcasts.
She'd be an outcast. What else though? What about her likelihood of getting married again? Would she be able to do that? I don't know. Be unlikely. I mean, she's a Moabite.
Well, I mean, when Naomi dies, then there's really no protection for Ruth.
Oh man, yeah, that's right. So so in your mind, if you're Ruth, that wasn't a logical, wise decision to stay with Naomi, was it?
Naomi makes it real hopeless.
Yeah, and then she wasn't getting any encouragement from
You're
her.
not getting anything good. I just still let you go back with me.
Plus the last statement she made, the one we talked about earlier, the hand of the Lord is against me. I mean, if you tell me that the hand of the Lord's against you, and that means I want to hang around with you, I mean, I know Naomi's pretty much said you're signing up for bad things.
You say that, and yet what I always think is so precious is her love for Naomi
Yeah.
and the sacrifice she's willing to make to go with her mother-in-law.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it kind of overrides all that.
Yeah.
And y'all talk about how
Yeah.
she did not use wisdom, she did not use
Yeah.
logic, but what overrode all that was love.
Yeah. Love overrode it.
I
Yeah.
think it could be argued too that both of these daughters are feeling, are using a logic in a different way.
Mhm.
Like I see these words on the board and I see covenant and loyalty, and I think they both probably could have argued that my devotion to Naomi and the way that I am loyal to her is I'm doing what she's asking me to do and I'm leaving because that's what she's asking
told
me
me
to do
to.
and I'm devoted to you.
Yeah.
And then there's some very strong literary language that Ruth clung to her and said,
Yeah.
my devotion to you is I'm staying. I know you're asking me to leave, but my brain, my logic tells me to do something different.
Yeah. So that word cling that's used in here is the same word that it talks about leaving father and mother and clinging to your wife. I mean, it's that devotion that you're going to be with them forever. It's the same language that's used here, clinging to each other.
There is love. Could there also be an unlikely source here of faith?
Yeah.
Does Ruth have more faith that if I travel with her and she's in covenant with God,
Yeah.
that this God of Hesed
Yeah.
is one that will, the fact that we're going to go back because, God has been good to His people again.
Mhm.
And so does she have more faith in this moment than Naomi does?
Yeah. I think that's interesting because she's not really had a chance to see much demonstration of God in her 10 years with him. I mean, the man died, her husband died, her brother-in-law died. She's not seen that. We would like to think that she had seen the faith of Naomi, she'd seen the faith of those people, and wanted to be part of it.
Because she does say, your God will be my God.
That's right.
What kind of God is that?
I know, yeah. Let's read on, because I want to make sure we read the whole chapter. So somebody want to read the rest of it?
At this time that they wept again, Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, and Ruth clung to her. Look, said Naomi, your Your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Go back with her. But Ruth replied, don't urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I'll be buried. May the Lord deal with me ever so severely if anything but death separates you and me. When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her. So the two women went in until they came to Bethlehem, and when they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them. And the women exclaimed, can this be Naomi? Don't call me Naomi, she told them. Call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my very life bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought this misfortune upon me. So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth, the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, arriving in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning.
All right, very good, thank you. So, that's the whole story, whole first chapter of Ruth there. So, a couple of questions. Let's talk about the character of Naomi for a minute. She gets back, and it says in here, the women exclaimed, can this be Naomi? There's a lot of ways of reading that. Were they excited to see her? You think they were excited she was back? Yeah? Anybody might disagree with that? Was there a bit of sarcasm in that too? Could there have been a bit of sarcasm?
Is it excited in a negative way?
Yeah, I mean, just think about what they might be thinking about Naomi, right? Her family left in a great time of pain and trial for the people. And then she comes back and
When it's good.
she comes back when it's good. So you didn't, so I can imagine that there was some that probably said, can this be Naomi? Yeah, now you're back. You know, you left us when we needed you, and now you're back when things are better. I don't know if that's what it was or not.
I thought maybe she was very faithful. See, I look at it a different way.
I know, yeah,
I think Naomi, I mean, she had to go with her husband.
yeah,
And yes, you know, that there was problems that hit the family, but Naomi decided, well, after all what had happened, that she needed to go back home.
yeah,
And I'm wondering if she did not want to go back to serve the God that she
yeah.
needed to serve. And because of her faithfulness, the women were, I thought, excited to see her. I was
Yeah.
just thinking about an older woman that
Came
is
back.
so faithful, and she comes back, and, you know, the women that knew her are excited to see her. So,
Well,
that's my picture.
That's good, that's good. It could also be that the Naomi they knew is a completely different person now that she's back.
Well, that's kind of what she told them.
Right, she tells them that too. I mean, I'm not the happy, pleasant. Naomi means pleasant, right? Naomi means pleasant, and she changed her name to Mara, which means bitter. So I think the person that they knew, maybe it was a legitimate question. Can this really be Naomi? She was a nice, pleasant person when she left. Now she's bitter. She's sad.
He said she's really beat up.
She was beat up. She was beat up. Now, we haven't even talked about the travel. I mean, I think about, you got Naomi, an older woman, and two women starting out on this trip from Moab through the trials. Traveling in that time, matter of fact, in Judges, it talks about it's treacherous. And people we zigzagged through the countryside to try to travel safely. It wasn't safe for people to travel. So maybe there was things that happened to them on the way. I don't know. But whatever the case is, she's a different person now that she's back. And they wanted to know what happened to her. Now, let's think about what else she did. Naomi's in a lot of pain, right? She's feeling alone. Ed can't keep his shoes on today.
What is it?
She says, are you sandalist today? she comes back, let's see what the exact words she tells them. Because I'll come back, I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Brought me back empty. What's she forgetting? Has she come back empty-handed?
She brought Ruth back.
She brought Ruth back. Imagine you been Ruth and you committed your life and faith and traveled back with her and you hear your mother-in-law say that. I imagine that was pretty hard to hear. But Ruth, but Naomi had forgotten about what she was coming back with.
I feel like I don't want to negate from the fact that she like lost a lot and been through a lot, but this also makes me feel a lot of like woe is me, right?
Yeah. Now, what does pain do to people? What does it do to us when we have pain? Who do we start focusing on? Yeah. I don't know if there's
a vision about what you've lost, and nothing else
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah.
You know, and so we shouldn't be surprised when our loved one has suffered a death or a loss, and we're there and we're thinking, it don't
Yeah.
make a difference. It's not gonna make a difference for a while, so you
Yeah.
know, so don't be, my gosh, what kind of person is it? They don't even appreciate what I do. They don't have the capacity to do that
Right.
in that moment.
Yeah. Pain brings, yes, Jim.
These technological wonders that we carry around with ourselves, the Jewish Bible translation in these scriptures, she said, don't call me Naomi, call me Mara, because, is it Shaddai, has made my life very bitter. I went out full, and Adonai has brought me back empty. Adonai testified against me, Shaddai has afflicted me. And some of you will know the names of God, but she uses in this, the Jewish translation,
Yeah.
two different
Two different
names
names
of
for God. Yeah. That is interesting. So, pain brings self-absorption. It blinds us from God's greater plan in the small ways God may be working. You want to look at the story and kind of say, Naomi, look, God's working in your life. And I think probably when she got on the other side, matter of fact, we know she did, she looked back and said, God was working in my life. So those are good things. Is there loneliness that can only be filled? This is for us in our time. Is there loneliness that can only be filled with a relationship with Jesus Christ? What are some things that we try to do sometimes to fill that loneliness? We focus on what? Games, TV,
Social calendar.
social calendar. We make ourselves busy. If we could talk to Ruth or Naomi in this first chapter, we'd ask her, why didn't you see what God was doing? Would we ask her that? Did you see what God was doing? Did you have any insight? I guess the one thing that I keep thinking about is for myself is like, when bad things happen, try to always remember that God is still working. God is still working. Bad thing happened, God's still working. I got to figure out what He's doing. And, you know, I don't know that always helps, and there's always things that bring pain and unhappiness to all of us. But our faith has to be strong enough to try to remember God is still working, even in the pain. And He's still with me, He still loves me. All those things. Try to remember our relationship with God and what He's doing. Naomi's thought was that God was against me. And I've been guilty of that too. He's not wanting me to do this, or He's pushing against me.
You know, 4 times she says things like that.
I know. Well, think about it. It was in the time of the judges too. You know, what was God's hand against them? It said in there very clearly His hand was against them. So she had every reason to say that.
I mean, it starts out with a famine, that's why they left anyway.
Right.
God's hands against them.
Yeah, the famine, God calls the famine. And he punishes them,
My
yes, sir.
thought is that when Naomi was in Moab, she accepted Ruth, and obviously meant a lot to her.
Yeah,
And then when Naomi got bitter and felt down, felt God had left her and so forth, Ruth then maybe picked up on that, and she then was, one of the reasons she wanted to go back to Bethlehem with her
right,
was to be a good influence on her,
yeah,
to bring Naomi back.
to bring Naomi back, yeah, that's good. I hadn't thought about it that way, but we see that through the whole story, right?
The
Ruth was-
commentary that Juanita has, there was one little hint or suggestion that maybe she tried to get the Moabite daughter-in-law to go back because, you know, what's this, we're gonna think about her, that now the family line includes Moabites.
Well, and when she introduces her,
Mhm.
she says Ruth the Moabite.
Mhm.
She uses her full name, so she tells everybody that she's a Moabite. And I imagine that did cause some trouble. And again, I'm thinking about these women that said, is this Naomi? We brought this Moabite into our clan, our group, and now what are we gonna do with that? So, anyway, good discussion. I appreciate you guys digging into Ruth 1. We'll do Ruth 2 next week. All right.
You know, a side comment is that it seems during those times that people had a name, they understood what the name meant before they assigned it to their child or whatever.
Yeah,
And today, people pick names for their children based on what's popular or maybe a family name or whatever.
Yeah.
But what the name means, I don't know what our kid's name means.
yeah.
You know,
What is Reagan?
it doesn't mean anything today.
Raymond, what does it mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.